Did you know J. Robert Oppenheimer, the physicist who led the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, of course, the atomic bomb.
Right. Well, he famously quoted this ancient text right after witnessing the first atomic test. He said, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Wow, that's intense. Where did that come from?
That line, incredibly, comes from the Bhagavad Gita, an ancient Hindu scripture, a dialogue from thousands of years ago set on a battlefield.
It's amazing, isn't it? A single verse, 11.32 apparently, from the Gita resonating so deeply with such a terrifying moment in modern history.
Totally. It really shows the lasting power of this text.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission here is to unpack the Bhagavad Gita. People often just call it the Gita.
Right.
We're using a pretty detailed Wikipedia excerpt as our main source.
Oh.
We want to pull out the key insights, the surprising bits, help you understand its core messages, all the different ways people have interpreted it over centuries, and why it's still so relevant.
And hopefully spark a few aha moments for you along the way.
Exactly. Trying to do it efficiently, respecting your time. So let's get into it.
All right, so first off, the name itself, Bhagavad Gita, it translates roughly to God's song, or maybe the divine song.
Divine song, I like that.
Yeah, and it's a Hindu scripture. Dating is a bit debated, but generally placed around the 2nd or 1st century BCE, so really ancient stuff.
And it's important to get this. The Gita isn't like a separate book that just appeared. It's actually part of a much, much larger epic poem in Sanskrit.
That's right, the Mahabharata. The Gita makes up 18 chapters, about 700 verses, and is tucked inside one section of the epic called the Bhima Parva, specifically chapters 23 through 40.
Okay, so it's embedded, but people often study it on its own.
Oh, absolutely. It's often treated as a complete standalone text. And what makes it so, unique is how it synthesizes all these different strands of Indian religious thought.
Like what kind of strands?
Well, you've got core Vedic ideas like dharma, duty, righteousness. Then there's Samkhya philosophy influencing ideas about jnana, or knowledge, and different kinds of yoga for spiritual practice.
Right.
And a big one is bhakti, which is all about loving devotion.
Wow, that's a lot packed in.
It is. And this mix has made it super influential across Hinduism, central to Vedanta, which explores reality, and Vaishnavism, focusing on Vishnu or Krishna. It's got this pan-Hindu appeal.
So who wrote it? Or is that complicated too?
Yeah, a bit complicated. Traditionally, it's attributed to a sage named Vyasa, but the scholarly view leans towards it being a composite work.
Meaning multiple authors over time.
Exactly. And that ties into the dating debate too, with theories stretching from maybe the 5th or 4th century BCE way up to the 2nd or 3rd century CE. A lot of it hinges on analyzing the type of Sanskrit used.
And was it always part of the Mahabharata? I've heard some scholars argue about that.
Right. That's another layer. Some, like Van Buitenen, think it was likely planned by the Mahabharata authors all along, designed to be this climax, this exploration of a huge dharmic dilemma.
A moral crisis, basically.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But then others, like Franklin Edgerton, were a bit skeptical. They kind of thought, well, hang on, would two massive armies really just pause everything for this long philosophical chat right before a battle?
Yeah, good point. Seems unlikely. Maybe it was added later.
That's the argument, that it was inserted later because it fits so well thematically, even if not practically on the battlefield timeline. It definitely serves a powerful purpose in the epic.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking of its significance, it recently got this big international recognition, right?
It did. Just in April 2025, the Bhagavad Gita manuscript was added to UNESCO's Memory of the World Register, which is huge.
Wow, so it's officially recognized as global heritage.
Yeah, acknowledging its profound cultural and philosophical importance worldwide.
Okay, so with that background, let's dive into the scene itself, the core narrative.
Yes, the setting is incredibly dramatic. Picture this. The Kurukshetra battlefield. Huge armies poised for war. And right there, in a chariot between the two sides, you have the Pandava prince, Arjuna.
He's one of the main heroes of the epic.
Correct. And his charioteer is Krishna, who isn't just any charioteer. He's an avatar of the god Vishnu, essentially God in human form, acting as Arjuna's guide and friend.
And who are they facing?
That's the crux of the problem. Arjuna looks across the battlefield and sees his own relatives, cousins, uncles, respected teachers, elders, people he loves and honors.
Oh man, so he's supposed to fight them.
Exactly, and he just breaks down. He's completely distraught. He starts questioning everything. Is this war moral? Is it right to kill his own kin? What is his duty, his dharma as a warrior here? Should he just give up, renounce it all?
That's heavy. And it feels so relatable, right? Maybe not fighting family on a battlefield, but facing those moments where your duty or what's expected of you clashes hard with your own feelings or ethics.
Absolutely. It's a universal human dilemma. And that's where Krishna steps in. His response, his counsel, starts with Arjuna's specific crisis, but it quickly expands.
It's not just a pep talk for war.
Not at all. It goes way beyond just justifying the fight. Krishna delves into really deep philosophical territory. The nature of the self, the meaning of action, devotion, reality itself. Concepts that apply to any life situation, not just war.
So the whole dialogue becomes something bigger.
Many interpret it as a metaphor, yeah. An ongoing conversation happening within each person, between the individual self, maybe the ego, the mind, and that higher divine self. Krishna representing the Atman, or Brahman, the ultimate reality.
That's a powerful way to see it. And the text itself, how is it structured?
It's poetry. 700 verses, mostly in a specific Sanskrit meter called Anushtubh Chanda. This makes it quite rhythmic and memorable, like a song, which fits the name divine song.
Okay, so let's get into the core teachings then. What are the big ideas Krishna shares?
Well, one major theme is this synthesis of action and renunciation. The Gita kind of pushes back against the idea that you find liberation just by avoiding all action, all karma.
So you don't have to become a hermit in a cave.
Not necessarily. It actually advocates for living an active life, engaging with the world, but doing it in alignment with your dharma, your true duty or nature.
Okay, but how do you do that without getting caught up in, the stress and desire that comes with action?
That's the key. It introduces this incredibly influential concept, nishkama karma.
Nishkama karma, what does that mean?
It means acting without attachment to the fruits or the results of your actions. Basically, inner renunciation. You do what is right, what your duty requires wholeheartedly, but you renounce your craving for a specific outcome. Success, reward, praise, avoiding failure.
Wow, that sounds difficult, but also freeing.
Exactly. Think about it. How much energy do you spend worrying about results, seeking validation? Nishkama karma invites you to shift your focus entirely to the quality and integrity of the action itself. You act with purpose, but you're free from being emotionally down to the outcome.
That feels revolutionary. Imagine just doing the right thing, full stop.
It's a core message. And related to this, the Gita also outlines different spiritual paths, which later got famously categorized as the 4 yogas.
Right, I've heard of these.
In chapter 13, it mentions paths like Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge or deep insight. Then Karma Yoga, the path of righteous, selfless action we just talked about.
Okay.
There's Bhakti Yoga, the path of loving devotion to the divine, and Raja Yoga, often associated with meditation and mental control.
And Swami Vivekananda really popularized this 4 yoga framework, right?
He did, yeah, in the late 19th century. He presented it very systematically. But the beauty, according to the Gita itself, is that none of these paths is necessarily better than the others.
So you can choose what fits you.
Kind of. It suggests they all converge in one and lead to the same goal. They just suit different temperaments, different kinds of people. So whether you're more naturally intellectual or active or devotional or drawn to meditation, there's a way for you to connect.
That's very inclusive. What about the metaphysics, the big picture of reality?
The Gita draws a lot from existing Indian philosophies, particularly Samkhya and Vedanta. It makes this key distinction between Prakriti and Atman.
Prakriti and Atman.
Yeah, Prakriti is like the material world, nature, everything that changes, including our physical bodies. It's temporary, impermanent.
Okay.
And then there's the Atman, that's the true self, the soul, the consciousness within. It's eternal, unchanging, unborn, undying. It's the permanent reality beneath the surface of change.
And how does Krishna fit into this? Is he Prakriti or Atman?
That's where it gets really profound. Krishna presents himself in multiple ways. He's there as a personal god, Arjuna's friend and guide, someone you can have a relationship with. That's the bhakti aspect. But he also reveals himself as the Nirguna Brahman, the absolute, formless, ultimate reality that underlies everything, beyond all description, all attributes.
So he's both, the personal god and the abstract absolute.
The Gita basically says yes. It kind of dissolves the distinction, suggesting there are 2 aspects of the same ultimate truth. And this culminates in chapter 11 with the Vishwarupa.
Universal form.
Yes. Krishna grants Arjuna this divine vision, showing his cosmic, all-encompassing form. It's symbolic of that absolute reality that pervades all of existence. Terrifying and awe-inspiring.
And that brings us back to Oppenheimer.
Exactly. Verse 11.32, where Krishna, in this universal form, declares, "Time I am, the great destroyer of worlds." That's the source of Oppenheimer's quote, adapted slightly as "I am become death." It's just staggering how that ancient verse captured the magnitude of the atomic age.
It really is. So the Gita clearly has had this massive impact right up to modern times.
Oh, huge prominence in modernity. Especially in the West, its popularity really took off, partly thanks to early translators and groups like the Theosophical Society in the late 1800s.
And that UNESCO recognition we mentioned just cements its global status.
Absolutely. And it's not just the text itself, but the tradition of commenting on it. There are over 200 commentaries just in Sanskrit that we know of, plus countless more in other languages.
Wow. Different interpretations, I assume.
Definitely. Different philosophical schools read it through their own lenses. Shankara, the Advaita Vedanta guy, saw it emphasizing non-dualism, the ultimate oneness of the Atman and Brahman.
Okay.
Whereas Ramanuja, from the Vishishtadvaita school, read it as a qualified monism unity, yes, but individual souls still retain some distinction within God. These commentaries really shape how people understand the text.
And modern figures have had a big impact too.
Huge. Think of Mahatma Gandhi. He called the Gita his spiritual dictionary, his gospel of selfless action. It was fundamental to his philosophy, especially nonviolence, though we'll touch on the complexities there later.
Right.
Then there's A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON. His translation, Bhagavad Gita as it is probably the most widely distributed English version globally.
I've definitely seen that one around.
And someone like Paramahansa Yogananda, known for Autobiography of a Yogi, wrote a commentary emphasizing the Raja Yoga aspects meditation, Kriya Yoga. So many different angles.
Okay, now let's wade into some of the trickier parts. The ethical debates and conflicting interpretations. This seems crucial.
It is. And it shows the Gita isn't some simple rule book. First, let's talk about Dharma and the caste system. Krishna tells Arjuna to follow his Svadharma, meaning his own specific duty, which in Arjuna's case is linked to his social class, to Kshatriya or warrior class, fight, because that's your role.
Okay, that sounds potentially problematic from a modern perspective.
It has been, yes. Now, many modern Hindu thinkers, people like Dhaneshwar, Vivekananda, Aurobindo, even Gandhi, they interpreted Svadharma much more universally. They saw it less about rigid, birth-based caste and more about finding your own unique calling or duty based on your individual nature, your capacities, your current life situation. Vivekananda strongly argued the Gita actually rejected caste hierarchy and preached equality.
So a more internal, personal understanding of duty.
Right, but there's significant criticism too. Figures like B.R. Ambedkar, a major social reformer who came from the Dalit community.
Right, formerly called untouchables.
Exactly. Ambedkar argued forcefully that the Gita does uphold a caste system, that it privileges the upper varnas and justifies social hierarchy. He pointed to verses that seem to support this, even suggesting those not born into warrior or Brahmin families are from sinful wombs.
Wow, okay. That's a very different reading.
It is, and it's really important we state clearly here. We're just relaying these different interpretations and criticisms from our source material. We're not endorsing any specific viewpoint ourselves, just presenting the spectrum of thought around the text.
Understood. That neutrality is key. What about the issue of war and violence? That seems like the most obvious tension, given the setting.
Absolutely. A very common interpretation, especially in modern times, sees the whole battlefield as an allegory.
An allegory for what?
For the inner struggle. The war within the human psyche. Arjuna represents the individual soul battling its own inner demons. Ego, attachment, delusion, fear. Krishna is the divine guide helping navigate that inner conflict. Iswan, Vivekananda, Gandhi, many prominent figures promoted this view.
So it's not really about literal war for them?
Not primarily, no. It's about spiritual warfare. However, others have taken it more literally as a justification for righteous action, even violent action if necessary.
Like who?
Some leaders in India's independence movement, like Bal Gangadhar Tilak. They saw Krishna's call to Arjuna to fight as a call to Indians to actively resist colonial rule. It was seen as a defense of a warrior's duty when fighting for a just cause.
So a justification for just war, in a sense.
You could frame it that way, yes.
Yeah.
But then again, you have pacifist interpretations too. Christopher Isherwood, for example, still found a message supporting nonviolence in it.
It seems like people find what they're looking for.
That's certainly part of its power and complexity. And the critiques regarding violence are also strong. Ambedkar, again, was highly critical. And the poet Pilal described Krishna's arguments as potentially forked-tongue speciousness.
Speciousness, meaning?
Like clever but ultimately false reasoning. Particularly Krishna's point that you shouldn't grieve because only the body dies. The Atman is eternal. Critics saw this as a way to downplay the horror and reality of killing. Lal even called it an unheard-of defense of murder.
That's sharp criticism.
It is. And perhaps the most telling example of this ambiguity around violence is the connection to Gandhi.
Right, the apostle of nonviolence.
He drew immense inspiration from the Gita for ahimsa, nonviolence.
Yeah.
Yet Nathuram Godse, the man who assassinated Gandhi,
Oh no.
also cited the Gita as a source of inspiration for his actions, believing he was fulfilling his duty, much like Arjuna.
Wow. The same text inspiring both the victim and the assassin in that context.
Yeah.
It's profoundly unsettling.
It really highlights the immense interpretive latitude the text allows. Its depth makes it applicable to wildly different, even contradictory viewpoints.
Okay, one last interpretation. You mentioned the modern psychotherapy angle. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, this is quite interesting. Some Indian psychiatrists have looked at the dialogue and seen parallels with cognitive therapy.
How does that work?
They see Arjuna as someone suffering from acute anxiety and distress, paralyzed by his situation. And Krishna acts like a therapist.
A divine cognitive therapist?
Sort of. They argue Krishna uses principles like jnana, imparting knowledge, changing perspective, karma, reframing action and duty, and bhakti, building trust and connection, to help Arjuna restructure his thinking, overcome his despair, and function effectively.
So, ancient wisdom providing a framework for modern psychological understanding.
That's the idea. It shows how these concepts of self-understanding, duty, and perspective can be applied even to mental well-being today. It's a testament to the text's enduring relevance across different fields.
It really is. This deep dive, well, it's certainly shown the Gita to be incredibly layered, profound, complex.
Multifaceted, definitely. Offering these timeless ideas about duty, how to act in the world, the nature of who we are, our connection to something bigger.
And it's just amazing how a text born from this specific crisis on a battlefield keeps resonating and sparking such diverse, sometimes clashing interpretations thousands of years later.
It really speaks to its depth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And its adaptability. It meets people where they are in different times with different concerns and enduring paradox in many ways.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. What's your battlefield right now? What dilemma or difficult choice are you facing? Maybe not with swords and arrows, but...
Yeah, could be a conflict at work, a family issue, an ethical question, a struggle with your own motivation or purpose.
Right. And how might exploring some of these ideas from the Gita about acting with purpose, about inner resolve, about letting go of attachment to outcomes, how might that help you find a bit more clarity, even when the path forward seems really confusing or conflicted?
Something to think about, definitely. How these ancient conversations might still guide our inner dialogues today.